Also the range. Hey there, folks. Just kidding.
Find your spot to come to rest. Is this purse belong to anyone? Okay. I trust that the people who are all speaking will be up here soon in this direction. Right. Hi, everyone. My name is Caitlin. I'm the Tremendous National Director. I've met a lot of you before. Welcome. Thanks for being here. It's not really my turn yet. I'm actually just introducing Charlie Price, who's going to play a couple songs for us. Charlie lives in Nevada City, and he is one of the coordinators of our Nevada County Move to Amend affiliate. Has been working with us for a long time, but also is a musician. So I'm going to turn it over to him to open this up.
Yeah, man.
I've been a singer-songwriter since high school, and I ran my hand so I can't stand to play guitar with these two fingers. Actually, all I can really do is the peace sign. Made me a much mellower guy. But I did evolve, it's adapt, migrate, or die. I decided to do that. So I started playing guitar on my back. Discovered that you can't play major chord and flat. So I designed this guitar. Gives me the mic.
Can you make that mic louder?
Can't do it. I got my own sound man, so I can do it. Yeah, I can do it all, including my own roadie, unfortunately. So a friend of mine sent an email to me years ago talking about how the corporations realized in the 30s that they really didn't have to talk about their product. What really worked for them was associating their product with a desirable lifestyle. My favorite is Salem cigarettes. Their ads are refreshing.
Is that better for you?
Like smoke in your face. Helpful and free. Addiction, ill health, and smoking. The exact opposite. Anyway, here's a song. Back in the 30s, they hatched a big corporate plan. Take all the people throughout this great land and give them the people they're much better off with all the new shiny stuff that they bought. Keep them distracted, leave them wanting more. So the rich can get richer, the rest work and stay home. Now the poor that I speak of, it's not always dollars and cents. Can be the empty, lonely feeling, recessions, recess. The joy of the purchase, it fades pretty fast. Credit card bills last while they keep us distracted, leave us wanting more. The rich just get richer, The rest work and stay poor. You know, when they want to figure out just how it is we're all doing, feels to me like they're adding up all the stuff that we ruined. Yet it's how fast is the rate of our consumption? How fast is the rate of a planet's destruction? Oh, they keep us distracted, leave us on the Lord. The rich just get richer while we work and stay poor. The big corporate plan took me and all us baby boomers, changed us from citizens into consumers. No longer citizens, just a bunch of consumers. Yeah. I don't always write songs just by myself. Sometimes I have a co-writer. And this next and last song is one that's written by me and Woody Guthrie. Big corporations plunder the world's resources, killing forests and wildlife. Big corporations must turn a profit, no matter what happens to you or me. The robber barons bought off the judges, give up rights in our Constitution. Who said the courts had the right to do that? That job belongs to you and me. 'Cause I'm a person, you're a person, flesh and blood, mind and conscience. Corporation, it's not a person. That word belongs to you and me. The robber barons bought off the judges, give them the rights in our Constitution. Oh, I already sang that verse, darn it. That job belongs to you and me. The First Amendment protects our free speech. Now corporations, they get to use it to bankroll election, advertising, and drown out folks like you and me. They dump big money into elections, buying a president and legislators. Big corporations, legal fictions, now have more rights than you or me. The Fourth Amendment requires a warrant for search, for seizure. Now corporations use it to stop inspectors that are sent there to protect you and me. I am a person, you are a person, flesh and blood, mind and conscience. Corporation, not a person. That word belongs to you and me. Now that chorus comes back around again. And I got a feeling that some of you might be able to sing along with me, so I'm not just on an island here all by myself. I'm being scary. One time all together. I am a person, you are a person, flesh and blood, mind and conscience. Corporation, not a person. That word belongs to you and me. when Walmart's going to destroy a main street, and the people vote against it, that corporation cries by its discrimination, and it overturns the will you and me. Get all together. I am a person, you are a person, flesh and blood, mind and conscience. The corporation is not a person. That word belongs to you and me. If we the people are truly sovereign and rule the country through our elections, we must take back from the corporations rights that were made for you and me. The only way that can happen is if we amend our Constitution. And that's what's happening. Move to live. It's you. It's me. I am a person. You are a person. Flesh and blood. Mind and conscience. Corporation. It's not a person. That word belongs to you and me. That word belongs to you and me.
Thanks, you guys, and thanks for the participation. And there's a 50-50 raffle going on. You win half of the pot. It's a great deal, and Move to a Man gets the other half.
$1 per ticket and 6 for 5. And I'm gonna come around and I might not remember if I already gave you tickets.
Oh no, don't get mad at her. Give her money instead.
All right, thank you so much,
Are we seamlessly continuing?
We are.
Probably not. Welcome, everyone. Can you hear me fine?
Yeah.
Do you need me amplified?
We do because of the live stream.
Oh, Lord. All right, then, I'm amplified. Hey there, I'm George Friday. I'm one of the founders of Move to Amend. Woo! And it is truly a yay us moment. I really want to thank everyone in this room, whether you're brand new to Move to Amend and you just heard about us last week, or whether you've been with us for the whole track since we were founded 10 years ago. Thank you for everything that you've done, everything that you will do, and everything that you can do to make Move to Amend a strong organization and our goal of having a vibrant, real democracy in this country a reality. So awesome to you. Thank you. And if you're live streaming, kick ass. That's awesome. I want to thank to Moisha. I don't see you. Masha, I said it wrong. Albrecht, I got that right? Yes. For helping us set up in this space. Calvin D. Berry, who's also someone with the space here who helped us out, which is awesome. And you know, y'all, we started 12 people in the living room 10 years ago. And now there are hundreds of thousands of people who are aware of us, who support us, millions of folks who now know what corporate constitutional rights means and have an idea and understand that we are living in a situation by design. Those of us who are the 12 that were in that living room, sunken living room, which I thought was really groovy. Most of us had worked for a long, long time because we knew we didn't have a real democracy in this country. And we knew that was by design. Of course, when we talked to that with most people, they thought we were crazy. Now, when we talk to folks about the fact that we do not have a genuine democracy in this country, they go, I know. But the thing that needs to happen that you're helping us do, that we're getting closer to every day, is making it real that folks more than just know we don't have a functioning democracy, people are preparing to demand a functional democracy, and you're helping us do that. There's lots that we have to do now. When we sat in that living room all those years ago, we knew we had an uphill battle, but we had no idea of the response that we'd have, which was overwhelming from the beginning, and the continued momentum that would grow as we moved closer to our goal. And I want to introduce some of the folks who are currently on our board who are helping us get there. I'm still on the board as a founder. I don't think I've got the founder syndrome bad, but you can ask the staff how they do. All right then. Another of our board members who's been around for a very, very long time, very suave young man who I'm looking for right now, lives in LA, Daniel Lee. Daniel? And hailing from Eureka, California, one of our fantastic board members, Layla Roberts. Barbara Burton on our board brings it home from Minnesota. Tara Ingram is the Sacramento board member. Also, we also have a California person, I'm not going to say this city right, Petaluma, is that right? Yay! That's Jason Bayless, who's in Petaluma. I'm in Gastonia, North Carolina, near Charlotte. And our final board member, who's present and will now tell you more about what's going on with Move to Amend now, is our board member, co-founder with me, and awesome national director, Caitlin Posey Belknap.
Woo!
So it's so awesome to see so many of you in this space we've never been in before. Oh, did Yoni get left off? She did. She's on the list. Yoni, oh, from Florida. Thank you. Thank you. All right. So one thing that we wanted to acknowledge at the beginning is that the indigenous land that we're on, we try to do this at every event because we are on other people's borrowed and stolen land. So the Ohlone and Chochenyo tribes and people are whose land we're on here. And we want to acknowledge that and say thanks for sharing the space with us. Okay, I'm supposed to be introducing the rest of our team. So some of you I see and know, and you already know this about us, but Move to Amend is super grassroots, y'all. We operate, out of our homes. In the past, we operated out of my living room when we were in Eureka. And I know sometimes we can kind of come across differently than that. Because we try to make a point to, have a website with a strong presence, our social media presence, and to look very polished. But really, we're scrappy as hell. So it's nice to be here in this space with children's art all over the place and movement leaders, pictures, because that's much more our style than if we were at some, kind of snazzy Bay Area like work hub, which was another option of where we were thinking of going. So I want to introduce these folks to you, and the amount of work that everybody puts in. This is our job, but we're not doing this because we're here for the money at all. In fact, we don't even get healthcare. We're just doing this because this is our lives. This is our passion, and so these people deserve our utmost, appreciation and respect for the fact that they're putting in time on this every day. And there are many volunteers in this room, our affiliate coordinators, who could say the same, who are basically running local organizations in your communities to further the work of Move to Amend, and we thank you for that. But I want to give a shout out to our staff team. So Greg Coleridge, our outreach director, lives in Ohio. Program director lives in Las Vegas, Nevada now, recently. Keon Bliss, our new title, grassroots director, lives in Meadow, and Shelly Williams, our operations coordinator, new title for her too. And Grocia who's back there at the table, I think. She's our administrative coordinator. She, I think, lives in Sacramento, but has been in Reno. She's sort of in between, trying to decide where to be. Millie Harmon, our outreach coordinator, lives in Arizona. And then Alfonso Saldana is not here. He's in Washington, D.C., but he's tuned in online and helping us online. He's our social media coordinator, and he lives in Texas normally. Woo! So, Move to Amend is 10 years old. As you have probably heard, we actually, the reason why this is our 10-year anniversary instead of next year, because you're probably well aware that the Citizens United anniversary is coming up in January next year, but we actually formed before that case in preparation for it. We were, we basically came together as the folks who have been working against corporate constitutional rights and corporate rule for the last, going back some more than a decade before we came together in 2009. And decided at that point that we would form a coalition organization to call for a constitutional amendment and do a national campaign. And we honestly didn't expect the response that we got, so we were ready to go, and on the day of the Citizens United decision, we launched our web page. It really wasn't even a site, it was just a page, a call with our motion to amend, calling for the amendment, and we were blown away by the response. It crashed our website, we had tens of thousands of people sign it, and basically it was at that point that we realized, wow, we actually need to create this campaign that we've said that we are going to do. This is real. And part of it was that, social media was a new thing at that point, and we were able to kind of jump in on that wave. But a lot of it was that the seeds that we had been planting for the last 10, 15 years were starting to come to fruition. And this idea that, it's not just about money in politics, which is what we wanted to reframe the Citizens United decision as, but it's about the systemic power that corporations have through the law to overturn any effort that we make to try and rein them in and hold them accountable is out of our hands if they have constitutional rights. So what we want to do tonight is talk a little bit about some of the highlights that many of you, and those of you who are listening online as well and tuned in, are, a lot of our leaders as well. I saw a lot of names, so welcome and thank you for joining us online. Sorry that's kind of dark, but that's the space that we're in. We want to highlight some of our accomplishments that we've all been part of over the last 10 years, and then talk about a little bit of what's ahead. We've had our board and staff annual retreat, so we just finished that up, so we have some things to share with you from that. And then we have a big announcement that we're excited to share with you. And then we need to raise $5,000. There's a match for $2,500 that two donors helped put together. So if we can raise $2,500 tonight here in this room, they will match it, and we will have $5,000 to kick off the beginning of our end of the year fundraising, which will help us with that big announcement that I'm going to tell you about at the end. So be thinking about that. So that's the agenda for tonight. And to start us off on some of the highlights over the last 10 years exactly, precisely, I'm going to turn it over to Greg and Daniel.
Caitlin, in this room and online.
Yes, oh, that's right, in this room and online. Okay. Yeah, yes. So those of you who are online are not off the hook.
Hope this goes low enough. Okay. So we want to share with you about a dozen major highlights over the first 10 years of Move to Amend, beginning first with, as Caitlin mentioned, tens of thousands of signers to our motion to amend petition within the first 48 hours after our launch, crashing our website. And it has amounted now to upwards of 470,000 individuals have signed our petition. Number one. Second, hundreds of communities, we estimate about 800 communities have passed either local resolutions in either cities or counties across the U.S., passing either resolutions or citizen initiatives. And when, as many of you know, and having been a part of this, once these initiatives get on the ballot, they win. And not only do they win big. Yep. more than 800 between municipal resolutions and or citizen initiatives at the local or the county level. Whew.
In addition to the local and the county level, we've had 19 state resolutions passed, including red states like Montana. And like Greg said, all of these passed by a margin of 75 to 25. So we're not really converting people, we're just agreeing. A lot of you might have come to Move to Amend in a way in which one of our big growth spurts, I know I was very active in Occupy in 2011. And on Occupy the Courts was one of our first really big actions, and one of the things that allowed a lot of people around the country to know, hey, we're here and we're doing something about it, not just identifying the problem. It was the second anniversary of Citizens United following the rise of Occupy Wall Street. We had about 100 events around the country. In Los Angeles, we had an event at the Federal Building. We had about 200 people come out. We had speakers from across all of the issues that we all care about: environment, education, racial justice, school to prison pipeline, the prison industry. There's so much to celebrate, but there's so much more work to do. And when we interact with movements like Occupy, like I Don't Know More, like Extinction Rebellion, then we grow the movement and we get closer to our goal.
Another highlight, you calculate. Yeah. Give it up. All right, time to pull out your calculators here. You calculate the number of people who live in political jurisdictions where Move to Amend initiatives or resolutions have passed. It comes to 141 million people, or 46% of the U.S. population lives in areas where resolutions or initiatives have passed.
Yes.
We have local affiliates and informal statewide networks from coast to coast. That's right.
Along the same lines, we have several hundred organizations and endorsers and revolutions from community, interfaith, labor, good government, environmental, and different types of orgs. Many of them we know well: Progressive Democrats of America, the Sierra Club. We've worked with places like 350, the U.S. Social Forum, both organizations that represent frontline communities and communities of color, but also represent those people who are working to address the climate crisis and to make sure that our species does not go extinct. In addition to that, and one of the things that I was talking about earlier today, we shot a documentary, and it plays on Free Speech TV all the time. It's available on YouTube. It's one of the ways that my brother and my sister-in-law found out about Move to Amend and donated. And then lastly, and perhaps most importantly, we introduced HJR 48, which is the We the People Amendment. Well, okay, we wrote and introduced HJR 48, the We the People Amendment, which states that corporations are not people and money is not free speech. And we got a lot of sponsors.
Yeah, we did.
Right.
All right, just two more to go. We'll turn it over. The first is, anyone here remember the Monahan brothers?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, two brothers who, following Citizens United, one or both of them were vets, said we have to do something. So they chose to walk across the United States, beginning in California, ending in DC, to try to lift up and highlight the issue of the corrosive, corrupting influence of money in politics and corporate constitutional rights. And Move to Amend supported, helped organize those stops all across the country, and it achieved not just simply national media coverage, but maybe more important, local. Every time they stopped in a town, in a small community, it got local publicity, and that is really difficult to do in those small communities where oftentimes they aren't considered to be prime for our message. So very, very important. Lastly, it's the 10th anniversary. And we're here. And it ain't quite the case that many organizations like us who are not receiving underwriting from big foundations, corporations, unions, political parties, government, whatever the case may be, make it for 10 years. And that's largely because of what you have done to help us do that, to be both politically and economically independent.
Yep.
And they go hand in hand. Thank you.
Yeah.
One of the things that Greg said, and I feel like we'll all repeat it over and over again, but I don't think we can say it enough. When we are talking about our accomplishments, we are talking about us. We are not talking about the national team. We're not talking about a few people that you can get on the phone. We're talking about hundreds of volunteers across the country who saw an injustice, and that injustice being corporations owning us and corporate power being our system of governance and not democracy, and said, hey, wait, that's not a good thing. Let's do something about it. We changed the conversation. We went from a defeatist mindset where people were pessimistic and resigned to one where people really want to do something and really want to be with us, and we're going to change this country and we're going to change the world.
I'm just gonna rock star this, yeah? Hi. Oh, just wait. Hey, everybody, thank you so much for being here. It's really incredible to share this with everybody here, and I know so many of you have been working on this issue for so long. I feel really humbled to be here, so thank you. So Greg and Daniel told us all about the amazing things that we've been doing for 10 years. Many of you in this room have been working for that long on this issue. And a lot of you also probably know that one of Move to Amend's principles and founding values since the very beginning has been political education and studying those who came before us, the movements that laid the groundwork for us to be where we are. And so it's very important to us that we study their methods and tactics and learn lessons from the past. And so one thing that we have come to know is that all movements that were successful in making progressive change at some point employed all the tactics that we're using here, right? The initiatives, the rallies, the lobbying, the phone calls, everything you've been doing. But there comes a time when it's time to change it up. And we know that all of those movements have used civil disobedience at some point in the movement in order to win. We know that that's a crucial component for any movement to achieve what it's trying to do. And we're at a point 10 years in where we're feeling like we're there. So we're going to talk to you a little bit more about what that looks like, and hopefully you'll join us next year. January 21st, as Caitlin said, is the anniversary of Citizens United decision. And so a lot of people come to January 21st and they're talking about money in politics, and we're just asking. We've been asking for 10 years. And we're at the point now where we're a little sick of asking nicely. So January 21st, we have communities all across the country who will be participating in sit-ins in the in-district offices of congressional members who have not yet co-sponsored the We the People Amendment. Because we know that we can make all the phone calls and we can write all the letters, and you all have been doing that, and we still need to be doing that, but sometimes you have to go there and sit in and let them know what you really need them to do, and that we're serious and that we're not going away, right? Yep. Awesome. All right. Thank you. So excited for you to be a part of that. Yeah, we will do questions, I think, at the end. Does that make sense?
We'll be available for questions.
Okay, we'll be available for questions. I'm very excited about this action, so I'd love to talk more about it. So that's one of the really exciting things we have going on in 2020. We're escalating. And we're trying tactics that we haven't tried before, and we're getting a little feisty. I think it's going to be great. Okay, so in addition to that effort, we have an ongoing campaign called Pledge to Amend. 2020 is going to be a huge and important election season. Everyone knows that. There's a lot on the line, right? So it's also time that we make sure that our representatives are on record. Do you support the We the People Amendment? Are you on the side of the people, or are you on the side of billionaires and their corporations? Right. It's time we know that about the people that we elect, right? Look at the situation we're in. We need to know where they stand. So Pledge to Amend is an effort to get representatives and candidates for office to take a pledge to say they will support the We the People Amendment, or they will not. And that helps us to inform voters all of you and everyone else out there who's never heard of this issue about where their representatives might stand. Do they think that people are more important or billionaires and their corporations? So it would really be helpful if all of you, while you're out doing election work, which many of you do, bring the pledge with you. Ask your local candidates and federal candidates to sign the pledge. We'll post it on the website. We send voter guides. It's really important, especially in a year like 2020. So these are two of the major things we've got going on for 2020. I want to give a quick plug and a shout out to our awesome national interns who are here right now. Suzu, here on the camera, right? And Garrett's back in the back. And over here has been an intern before. Kelsey has been an intern. The intern is like not quite the word that we need to be using for these folks, because really they're very important in the national work that we do and have a really hands-on role in making this this work happen. So if you know anyone who might want to join us at the national level to get a very intimate idea of what we do and how an organization like this works, we have a paid internship program. The deadline is November 30th, and you can talk to me if you have questions. But it's just another example of how there's so many ways to fit in, to move to amend in the work, and however you fit in, that's where you get it. So thank you, and I'm really excited to work with all of you next year. We're gonna make it happen in 2020.
Woo! Thank you, everyone, for being here. And really, I mean, the internship program I can personally attest to. I actually got my start here as an intern 6 years ago, back in the fall of 2013. And I was volunteering with a local affiliate group in my home state of Indiana. And the opportunity opened up. One of the really unique things about Move to Amend is that for the past 10 years, this really has been a movement with a radical leadership that honestly walks its talk and practices horizontal leadership. It doesn't matter whether you are a volunteer on the ground or an intern just here for a semester or two. Your voice, your vision and perspective matters to us. And that was one of the things that really enticed me to participate with Move to Amend and this coalition, is because they listened to me even when I was an intern, and then they invited me to join the board of directors. And then eventually I was able to move out of the Midwest and come work out here with the National Coalition leadership. And I'm here now as your grassroots director. And one of the visions that we have going forward here with Move to Amend, and just to be clear about what our vision is, for us, for the past 10 years, this issue of corporate constitutional rights and money in politics isn't just a political issue, but it's actually a human rights issue that intersects with every struggle for justice, every crisis that our communities are facing around this world today. And if we're going to have any chance of systemic change, transform the current system that prioritizes property rights and profit over well-being, our humanity, and the very planet that we depend upon for life, we really have to get to the root problem and really not just think of it, stay within our silence. So what our grassroots network has been doing for the past 10 years is really working into the community, helping to raise awareness about the nature of corporate power, how it connects with every struggle for justice happening today, and to really organize in solidarity with communities that are living on the front lines of struggle, particularly Black, Brown, and Indigenous communities, Latinx and immigrant communities, the LGBTQ+ community, and even poor and impoverished communities across the United States. Everywhere that we live here, we are struggling under the threat of corporate power and corporate interest directly overriding our very humanity in our best interests. So going forward, we're going to continue creating groups. We've already helped create over 150 active affiliate groups across the country, dozens of which are still active, but we're not just going to stop at just creating groups. We're also going to help mobilize individuals to go into their own respective communities, their own movement groups, to help connect corporate power, the issue of corporate constitutional rights with the issues like racial justice, Black liberation, ending the school to prison pipeline and mass incarceration, environmental justice, you name it. Whatever your number one issue is at Move to Amend, we're all like, we have been telling it to up and down, make this your number two, because if we can actually pass the We the People amendment and make clear corporations are not people and money is not speech, we stand to level the playing field to open the door for a deep national discussion about what kind of society that we want, what system of government we actually want, and how that system represents all people, regardless of race, gender, or class, and not just wealthy corporate interests and property rights. So with that said, we're going to continue to grow this national coalition, continue to start groups and mobilize individuals to serve as ambassadors and connect and really continue to connect the root problems within our society with the corporate rule going forward.
I just want to acknowledge that there once was a time where, I might have done a lot more of the program and talking, and I want to give it up to my colleagues who went through all this with you guys. Can we give them another applause? First, I want to acknowledge somebody who walked into the room after we started. His home was the place where we held our very first meeting. So I want to honor Jonathan Freeman, who is here. We had a good space where we made it all get started. So I just want to make sure I remember all the different things that still need to happen. And you're probably wanting to know about the announcement. All right, well, first of all, though, as Keon said, there are a lot of people who maybe started doing this work because there's another issue that is really your first issue. Maybe you care about the fact that we're on the brink of collapsing the planet's climate system. Maybe you care about poverty. Maybe you care about racial justice. But how many of you is Move to Amend your number one issue? That you're already working and doing Move to Amend as your number one issue. How many of you are affiliate coordinators? You can put your hand up and also maybe, shout out that you're actually involved in a Move to Amend group. Woo! Thank you to those folks. And there's a number of people who are listening online as well. Mm-hmm. So Jessica said that we're going to be escalating our tactics in 2020. And these sit-ins that we're going to do on January 21st, we all know you can't just go and do one sit-in and then the amendment happens and we're good to go, right? So it's going to need to continue. So we want to make sure to kick off the year with the Citizens United anniversary and make sure that once again, the conversation is not just about money and politics, as we know that sort of the more establishment nonprofits in Washington, D.C. like to frame it, but that it's about corporate power, and it's a bigger issue than just money out of politics. And we're going to need to probably continue to do those sit-ins going forward. So it doesn't have to be January 21st, but is there anyone in the room who is willing to say now that you're willing to risk arrest and do civil disobedience with Move to Amend in 2020? We can work with you to get there. Yes! Yes! Woo!
Keep those hands up.
Follow up with you. Thank you so much. You stand on the shoulders of giants. We will support you and we will help make sure that is a good experience for you as well. Keep your hand up if you're one of those people so that Daniel can give you one of those forms. Thank you so much. All right, well, I have some good news about how we're going to be heading into 2020. You know that we have been working really hard and we're a bit behind on getting our amendment introduced in the Senate. It has been introduced in the House of Representatives 4 times. We're very proud that starting with this Congress and this year, we have one of the best people's champions in that House of Representatives. Pramila Jayapal from Washington State is our lead in the House. She's amazing. And then 65 of her colleagues joined her to be co-sponsors on the We the People amendment. If you look at our strategic plan, which is the 10-year plan to get the amendment passed, 65 is the amount of co-sponsors that we exactly want to be at right now in the House, but we haven't got it introduced in the Senate, and we are multiple years behind there. But I can't tell you who it is, but I can tell you a little bit about it. So we got a call just this week from a Senate office that we've been working on for years, and they indicated that they are willing to work with us and excited to introduce the We the People amendment in the U.S. Senate in 2020. Caveats that they gave us. And yeah, it was Mitch McConnell. No. We wouldn't even. They did say that they would like at least 5 of their colleagues to join them in that initial introduction. They would like a coalition. And they also would specifically like one of those folks or more to be members of the judiciary. So here we are in the state of California, where both of your 2 senators are not the Senate office. And both Kamala Harris and Dianne Feinstein are members of the Judiciary Committee. We have been working on those 2 offices for years. Especially shout out to the Bay Area folks who have been meeting with both those 2 offices for years, bringing them along. So I hope that what we need to do between now and, we're hoping that we can make this announcement on the Citizens United anniversary. It probably won't be introduced that day because that's actually the first day that Congress will be in session in 2020. It's the day after Martin Luther King Day, and it's also going to be impeachment circus, you know, or I will not use the words, situation. So there might be a little bit going on. But early in the year, this is going to happen. And so we have a few months to line up colleagues for our Senate lead. And all of you who are here in California, we are really rooting for you to help make sure that, I don't know about Dianne Feinstein, although the reality is her staff team are very receptive and open, and she's not running for re-election, and so she has nothing to lose. Maybe she can go out with a little bit of a legacy. But, you know, Senator Harris is one of our top targets. And their office has indicated already that they are very interested, and they were potentially one of the ones we were looking at to take the lead. So I'll leave you with that project task that we'll be following up on to make happen. So we have great news. We have wind in our sails. We do have, you know, we have 10 years of experience and lessons learned, momentum, and we need to raise the funds to make it happen. We need to do a visit to Washington, D.C. before the end of the year to follow back up with those Senate offices that we've been talking to, let them know the good news that they don't actually have to step out in front, but they just need to step out behind and in support of our Senate lead. And then we also need to lay the groundwork for kick-ass events on January 21st so that we can really flex our muscles. And we're really hoping that we'll get a lot of media that day, so we also want to invest in making it possible for that to happen as well. So as I told you, we have a couple generous donors who have said that if we can, in this room tonight, through this fundraising, we do have a couple other ways that we're trying to raise money too. So the silent auction is something that I hope you will participate in. We do have the 50-50 raffle, which is a chance for you to make some money, but us to make some money as well. But we also are hoping to raise $2,500 to match those generous folks tonight. And I will tell you right now that I am nervous about this because I have never done this like this before. Normally we just, you know, make the pitch and everybody gives what they can give, and that's great. So I hope you'll be kind to me and a little bit of the process here, because we're going to be kind of like running around and tallying as we go. So it might be a little messy, but I think we can all work together to make this happen. This is an investment in, I hope not the next 10 years, right? Because we want to get it done before that, for sure. But a celebration and acknowledgement of all that we have done, how far we have come, but that we're still not done, and we are every bit as committed to doing this as we were when we started. And now, instead of 12 people in the living room, we have all of you who are online, and really thousands and thousands of volunteers, hundreds of thousands of people, and as Greg and Daniel shared, millions of people who in one way or another have participated and helped move us forward. And so what I'm hoping to do is, if folks can, if you are willing to make a donation, what we need is to know how much. So some people might not want to do that and shout it out, but if you're willing to, that's great and makes our jobs easier. Tara and Jessica have donation envelopes. So they're going to be walking around, but also if you're willing to grab a donation envelope. So if you want to, when you stand up and say how much you're willing to give, then that's great, and Layla's going to count it. But if you want to do it as a anonymous amount, then you can just make sure to give the envelope to Tara and Jessica. But then we'll need to run it back up here so we at least get the amount. So it's a little messy. It's a little Caitlin style. We're going to figure it out on the fly. But that's how I wanted to do it. So that's what we're going to try.
We're taking credit cards.
Yes, we can take credit cards. So you can put your credit card on the envelope, but we also have a swiper. So if it's just easier for you to come see us after, we can do that. So we don't need to take your actual swipe in the moment. It's what's more important here, so that it's not a tedious process for everybody, is that we just get the amount. So to start us off, we need to raise at least, and if we can keep going, then we will, $2,500 to get this match. So who is willing to make a donation to invest and move to amend going forward? Who is this?
Who is this? So I just want to say David Kramer had to leave, but he kicked us off with $100. Thank you.
All right, Daniel.
150.
150 from Daniel. Thank you so much. 100. All right. Go ahead. 100. Thank you so much. What do we got back there? In the white. Judith, who's in absentia, 100. Thank you. No, go ahead. 100 more. Thank you. Jan. 100. Okay, let's tally for a second.
750.
750. All right, thank you so much. How about Yoni?
Anybody in the healthcare field, I want your match.
120 from a doctor. All right. Yes, Dale. 100 from Dale. Thank you so much. Who else? Back here. 100. All right. This is a magic number. What do we got? You're pointing at somebody? Who? Here. Sorry. 100. Thank you.
Phoebe.
Back here.
100.
100.
All right.
Phoebe, what did you want to go? Oh, right here. Right here. 100. And behind her. Another 100. All right. We got another 100 at the back table. Thank you so much.
Okay, hold on.
Oh, yeah, I'm doing this now.
Wait a minute. 200 from me.
All right. So anybody willing to match Joni for the 120 or 200 from Layla? How about back here? 120 from Layla's cousin. Great.
Medical people showing up.
Wait, what is
I'll
that?
do 150, but only if 2 people will match me who haven't already bid.
Okay,
So
let's.
raise their bid from 100
All right. So we got 150. We need 2 more 150s. Jonathan.
So you all know about the guy who was in the carpool lane with the corporation papers?
Yeah.
I've heard of that guy.
Me. The fine was $478. I'll donate that.
$478. All right, we're gonna keep going. 120. All right, back there. Did you say 150? Matching Phoebe. Okay, great.
We got one.
Who do we got? Over here. Jim, thank you. Did you want to go again? No, you just got your hand up still. Oh, you need an envelope. Thank you. All right. There's a lot of people in this room who haven't given, and you don't have to give 100. We will be happy to take 20. We will be happy to take 10 if that's the most that you can do. What we're asking is you to be generous and do the means that works for you. And any amount is respected and honored and appreciated.
Amen.
And so don't be shy if you can't do 100. We would be lovely.
You missed 120 and 200. Put it up there. You just missed those.
All right, cool. Yes, go ahead. 120 we got right here. Anybody else? Yes. Charlie, 100 in cash. From Northern California.
Hasn't been stamped yet.
Yes. 100? Thank you so much. Anybody else? There's people. Again, you don't have to do 100. Anybody out there able to do 20?
I can do 20.
20 from Jessica, thank you so much. How about anybody else? Another 20? Back there? 50. All right, let's wait for 1 second so they can tally it up.
Oh, there's another 120 up on there.
Oh wait, you know what we forgot to do? People online. Is anybody online willing to contribute?
I'll check the chat.
Not yet. Ambrosia's on the chat. You don't need to worry about it. Those of you online, we want you to be here too. We want you to help us make it. That was the intention all along. I said you weren't off the hook and I meant it. We'll come find you. You can donate online as soon as you make the pledge. Nobody online? Yes, Dale, you want to add?
You changed mine to 200.
Dale's to 200. That was one of the 100s, right? 200. Come on, math people. Yeah, keep handing out the. If you need an envelope because you pledged and you haven't done it yet, then raise that hand.
200.
Yes.
Oh, we have a 75 from
50 and 75 online. Thank you to the online person breaking the ice.
Somebody just put in 100 and another 50.
Woo! Thank you so much, people. Yes. No, I didn't. 200. Did you guys get that? Tara, what do you got? 200. 200.
Woo! There's another 200 from on mine.
Another 200 from online. Thank you so much.
Another 120 from online. I'm trying to read.
120 from online?
Yeah.
All right. Awesome. Ambrosia's going to share the donation link so you can make those donations right now. Never mind, Ambrosia's not going to do it. MoveToAmend.org/donate. If you're online, that's where you go to make that donation. All right. How are you guys doing right here?
Okay, hold on. My numbers.
What were we going for?
2,500.
2,500? Will I pretend?
Yes.
What was our goal? 2,500. So I'm going to ask you to guess. I'm going to ask you how to get
3,500.
$3,063 in less than 15 minutes.
Amazing. And good job, everybody. Thank you so much. But is there anybody who's just kind of like really wants to be part of this like group love that you didn't actually do it yet, but you want to get in on it and feel good going home knowing that you helped plant the seeds for the future for Move to Amend? Anybody?
Someone online just donated 28.
28 for the 28th Amendment.
Thanks, Bernie.
Anybody? What do you got over here? Well, yes.
Representing Carrie Garcia, $50.
$50. Thank you, Terry Garcia. Anybody else? Barbara. $250.
Whoa.
Thank you so much. Anybody else? 28 from Dion. Anybody else? Don't all jump in. Yes, Greg. 100. All right. Yes.
When I was a Brook grad student, I would contribute to Mujeres Unidas y Activas, which was an immigrant rights and a domestic workers' rights organization. I had nothing, so I gave 10 or 15 or 20, and I felt proud of it. And so that circumstances changed. I'm going to chip in another 500, and I'm hoping that whoever has will give whatever your means will allow.
Thank you so much, Layla, and thank you, everybody. So here's the thing. If this isn't really your cup of tea in terms of shouting it out, then that's perfectly fine. There are donation buckets at the door. There also is the silent auction, which lets you take something lovely home. Thank you so much to all of the people who donated items, to people who asked your friends to donate items as well. Can we give a round of applause to everybody who helped make the silent auction happen? And an acknowledgement to Millie, who was like, I want to do a silent auction a couple weeks ago and made it happen. So if you don't want to donate publicly, if you can and would make a donation before you leave. That would be really appreciated. We do still have the 50-50 auction, raffle. And how do we want to do this? Do you want to?
So, there's a few people who entered and are leaving soon, so we probably want to.
Do you want to pick it?
So if you want to do the 50-50 raffle, it means that you will get half the pot and Move to Amend gets the other half. Tickets are $1 each or 6 for 5. So come to me and I will hook you up.
Okay, so let's actually say that there will be like one more round. Shelly is going to just sort of walk around. Is that a thing that's true?
Well, maybe it's coming to me if you.
Well, I just wanted to pick it and then have it be done. For the 50. Okay, 10 minutes left for the 50-50, and then the silent auction is going to close at 6:15, which is in about, my clock keeps being wrong, 15 minutes from now.
I want to add that a few more items have been added from folks who are donating, and they'll still be stay tuned for the raffle. There's still more items that are getting added. So, and there are also discounts as well on those. So keep bidding. 6:15. Keep going.
Okay, so the last thing we're gonna do is we have a birthday cake because it's our birthday. Woo! So first of all, big round of applause. Thank you so much to everybody who gave. Thank you everybody who joined us online. Thank you everybody who was here and who works with Move to Amend in any way, shape, or form. If you want to get more plugged in with Move to Amend, then please see one of the staff or board members if you're not yet, and we would love to connect you up. We raised a total of $4,559 plus $2,500. Thank you so much, everybody, for your support. All right, so we have a birthday cake, so we should sing happy birthday, right? Woo! So happy birthday to Move to Amend. The Beatles version, I don't think.
Say it's your birthday.
No, I'm not doing that. All right, ready? We're going to sing it, and then we're going to be done and participate in the auction, ask us questions, and then we're going to probably clear out of here starting around 6:30 because we still have our meeting to finish up, and we have to go back down to Hayward. So, happy birthday to us. Happy birthday to us.
Happy birthday, Move to Amend. Happy birthday to us.
Woo!
Hey, I just wanted to mention that I stamped my money, and if you want to know how the general public feel about this issue, you go in, you buy frames at Ben Franklin or whatever, and you say, read that before you put it away. And the cashier looks at it and says, yeah. We don't have to sell anything. Everybody believes this. They just need to be made aware of it. So buying a stamp and stamping your money is a way to reach outside of the choir. It's great. Try it.
Thank you, Charlie. All right, online people, we're going to close out and let you have your evenings. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much
for
for the donations.
to working with you more, and have a great night. Thanks to everyone who donated.
Yeah.
Woo!
Hi, just want to reiterate that some